Hello there, and welcome back to the 100 Acre Wool Knitting Podcast. My name is Bella, and I'm coming to you from Los Angeles, California. I am a knitter and a maker, and on this channel I like to share with you what I've been making recently. So it's been quite a while since I've been able to podcast here and talk with you. It's been really sad for me. I've been so busy and so much has been going on. But I'm very excited to be back today and talk to you a little bit about what I've been working on. There have been a lot of things personally going on in my life recently, so I guess we'll just get into that first. So my partner is getting a new job. He has been offered a few positions, some here in the LA area and some also in the Bay Area of California, which is a bit more north. So we're going to be moving, not sure where to yet because we don't know which he's actually going to go with, but we are going to be moving, so it's just been a lot of weeks of apartment hunting and touring and just getting my mind around moving and thinking of all the things that we have to remember to do. This will be my first big move in my life. I've moved before, but not like everything. Not my entire life. I've never moved my entire life, if that makes sense. So yeah, it's gonna be a change, an exciting change, and this is probably gonna be the last time we talk in this space. This is probably the last podcast from the studio, so that's kind of a little sad goodbye. But the podcast will continue. They will just be from a new place. So yeah, a lot is going to be happening. We've already been so busy planning and packing and getting everything settled for the move, but we're going to be busy as well once we actually move and looking for furniture and such. So yeah, I will keep you guys updated with that, but let's get into the knitting for today. So I've had a couple moments, in between things to actually work on things, to actually knit and make. Not as much as I normally do, especially for this long of a period. I don't think I've talked to you all in like over a month here on YouTube. So yeah, anyways, let's get into things. So grab a cup of something, get cozy, and let's start talking about the knitting. So I do have quite a few things to share with you. Some small projects, some larger projects, some new things. So we will start with finished objects. I'm going to put my tea down. Okay, so something that I have cast on and finished since we last spoke. I have joined the Inspired by Ellenkal, which the Inspired by Ellenkal is a knit-along that is currently being hosted by Jackie and Carmen of the Knitting a Good Yarn podcast, and then also Loretta of the Knit My Way Home podcast. I think that's what it's called. I will link those down, both of those down below. I really recommend both of their podcasts. They are just wonderful ladies, and I love hearing them talk about their yarn and what they're knitting on. And Jackie and Carmen's podcast, they talk a lot about kind of the philosophy around knitting, if that's what you would want to call it, like the reasons that they choose the yarns or colors that they would, or the different patterns that they decide to knit, and just really thinking about that on a more deeper level, and coming to knitting with a lot of intention. So it's been really fun to catch up with their podcast. They just started with that a little bit ago, and Loretta's podcast I've been watching for a long time, and I really love Loretta and her daughter. So anyways, yes, they are co-hosting, those three women, they are co-hosting the Inspired by Ellenkal, which the Inspired by Ellenkal is a knit-along, and I think I already said that. It is based around this motif here in these socks. So the cowl is the only kind of requirement for the cowl would be to knit something with this motif. So why it's called Inspired by Ellen. So Ellen is someone who works at Acre, which is the company who produces knitted and yarn, which that's what this is made out of. And Ellen had knit a sweater, I think a couple months ago, with this motif. This colorwork motif. This colorwork motif was actually in a book. I'm not remembering the name. It was a Swedish book, I believe, and the pattern doesn't come in English, but there is another, I think it's Ficolana made this colorwork motif as like a free pattern. So I will link that down below if you want to take part in the KAL and you want to knit this motif. I will link this down below as to what this exact motif is. It's very similar. They're not exactly the same between the original book and this version, but they're close enough and you can always tweak it if you would like. But pretty much the only thing with the KAL is that you knit something with this motif in it. So it's been really fun so far to see some of the makers or some of the knitters getting really creative with the motif and putting it into different garments and accessories. I've seen some hats and some people really like molding the colorwork motif in different ways. I've seen some sweaters where they'll do, it's kind of a yoke style sweater and they decrease with this part, the kind of, it almost looks like a peacock feather, if that makes sense. Like if I turn it upside down, it looks like a peacock feather. So kind of making the decreases with this part, and it, I don't know how to explain it, but just really wonderful, inspiring projects have been coming out of this KAL so far. So I would highly recommend joining. It's running currently, and then it's going all the way through January 31st, I believe. So this is actually my second of the KAL? No, first. I have a second in the works already. I'll show that to you in a second. No, this is my first project for the KAL. I feel like it was my second. Anyways, sorry if I'm a little all over the place today. I feel like I haven't done this in so long, so yes, I would highly recommend joining the KAL, but for my first project, I decided to make socks. So first project of the KAL, first time using this colorwork motif, and then also my first time doing this particular sock pattern. So these are the Kura Socks. I think that's how you say it. It's by Miss Evil Knits, and she also has a YouTube channel here on YouTube about knitting, and these socks are not technically a pattern. So they're more like a sock recipe where she gives you the techniques and the general steps to follow when constructing these socks, but she doesn't give you, well, she does give you exact stitch counts, but you can tweak it as much as you need to depending on what yarn you use, because that's really what it's about. She's really encouraging you to use whatever yarn you would like to use and whatever gauge you would like to do. So it's more of a recipe in that way, that you don't have to only use one thing to make them. So I think it's a really great idea, and I'd heard about these socks from Caroline's podcast, from the New to Den podcast, or the Owner Care podcast rather, and I just really wanted to knit them for the longest time, so I figured this would be a perfect time to do so and try them out. And they have already become my new favorite sock recipe or pattern. I really enjoyed knitting them, and the outcome is perfection. There are no holes. It's very simple to construct, and it's just easy. It just like flies off your needles. I would say even if you've never knit socks before, this I would actually recommend as like for a first-time knitter, or rather for a first-time sock knitter. I would definitely recommend this pattern or recipe. Oh yes, by the way, her recipe is not always available on her YouTube channel. It is sometimes available. She will put it up and take it down at different points. So I would definitely recommend following her on Instagram for more information about when she will be opening that. I'm not sure if she has it posted anywhere, but you could definitely message her and ask when she's going to release the pattern. Or if you're a New to Den patron or owner or patron, it's always on there for you as well. Anyways, so the construction of these socks are just wonderful. So they're worked bottom up, which that's my favorite kind, to be honest. I'm always scared about running out of yarn. So like if it's top down, if you work it top down, I'm always scared of running out of yarn for the toe. So I really appreciate that these are worked bottom up. So you cast on at the toe, and I'm not going to explain the whole pattern because that's Miss Evil's, but generally you do increases on the side of the toe, and then you work across the midsection. You do the heel, a very interesting technique. She actually has multiple heel techniques in her recipe. And then it is one of the techniques, the version that I used is the heel flap and gusset method, but it's really cool that the way that she does it, it's really cool because you don't have to pick up any stitches. So I'll just say that. You don't have to pick up any stitches and you can do a heel flap and gusset. So I just can't say enough good things about this pattern. When it is available, or if you're a patron and you can access it now, go cast these on. They were so quick and so much fun. So a little thing about my particular version, if you would like to knit this exact thing yourself, I used Acre Vought for the main color. So this dark, really beautiful kind of gray black, natural black. So this one is Nutiden Acre Vought. And then for the contrast color here, I used Fleeceline, and I used both of them double. So when I was doing the color work, each of them were held double. And I think I used US size 2 needles. Yes, I believe these were US size 2 that I knit them with. So really great pattern. I just couldn't recommend them enough. I've been wearing these already quite a bit. I cast these off a few weeks ago already, and I've been wearing them inside. I just am loving them, absolutely loving them. With 2 strands, they kind of feel more like slippers, to be honest. I'm not sure if they would fit in shoes. They might fit in large boots, but you might want to use a single strand or a thinner colorway for this, or a thinner yarn in general. 2 strands of Acre Vought is actually quite dense. And I do love that, however, because I really like my socks to feel sturdy. I don't want to be feeling the ground through the sole of my socks, if that makes sense. I don't want the socks to be too thin or have holes when I actually am wearing them, if that makes sense. So yeah, when I'm wearing these, there are no holes. You can't see through them whatsoever. It is a very strong, sturdy fabric. You may even be able to see they're starting to felt a little bit at the bottom since I've been wearing these quite a bit. Yeah, they're already starting to felt towards the heels and the sort of front area where the toes are. So I think they're just gonna get more sturdy with time and wear. These don't seem like they're gonna get holes easily. So you could absolutely use 1 strand, single-stranded. I would recommend going down needle sizes just to make sure that the fabric is still sturdy, so you don't have to be patching them so often. But anyways, highly recommend them. Just go check it out, cast on a pair for yourself. I don't think you'll regret it. So loving those. And yes, don't forget to join the Inspired by Ellenkal. So another finished object is also a pair of socks. These I have had, well, let me just show you them first. So here we go. These socks I had actually had on the needles for maybe over a year, and I was finally just like, I want to wear these, I want these to be finished. I was tired of them being a UFO, unfinished object. So I put them back on the needles and finally finished them. Actually, one of the socks had been finished for a very long time, and then the other sock was like halfway done, and I just sat down one day, or maybe it was like a weekend, and just finished the rest of the socks because it was just so silly to leave them languishing. So these are so beautiful. These are called the Lotte Socks. I'm not sure how to pronounce that, but they're from the 52 Weeks of Socks book by Lina. And I really like them. They turned out so beautiful. And I've also been wearing these already quite a bit, and they really remind me of like schoolgirl stockings. I think something about the lace motif here. Here, I put my hand in there so you can see it better. Something about this like cable and lace motif, it just, I don't know, running all the way up the sock, it just really looks like a schoolgirl kind of stocking. Maybe you can tell. So I changed the pattern a slight bit. There were supposed to be, originally in the pattern, there was supposed to be some striping right here at the top. And I had done that originally, but I decided against it. I just liked how they would look as just simple kind of gray socks with a little bit of interest from the yarn, a little bit of speckling. So the yarn is Woolen Vine Yarns, her Footsie Base, I think, and the colorway is Solstice. Yes. These have been going so long, I don't exactly remember all the specifics, but as always, I link everything down below in the description below this video, so if you would like links to everything or more details on what I'm talking about, all that information is always down below, as well as timestamps. So yeah, I really like how these came out, and they're very comfortable to wear. These do that thing that I was just saying that I don't like, where when I put them on, they're kind of stretching out because the gauge is not tight at all. So it's holy, if that makes sense. Like between the knit stitches, it just stretches out a little bit. But I'm not really wearing these for warmth, to be honest. I'm wearing them for comfort and just to protect my feet, because sometimes, I don't know, things can be on the ground and it hurts. So yeah, so I'm very happy to finally have those finished and off the needles, and I would definitely recommend this pattern. They are very beautiful, especially if you want something with a little lacy detail. It was really a simple chart to follow. It is charted in the book, so if you can follow charts, I would definitely recommend. All right, let's see what is next. Oh, I have a new cast on. So my mom's birthday is coming up very soon. I think I cast this on a little bit too late, but her birthday is coming up, and she had picked out some yarn the last time we were together, or no, this past winter actually. We were together and we had gone to some yarn shops, and she fell in love with some yarn and picked some up for me to knit her a sweater, actually multiple sweaters. So I figured it was time to actually knit her one of those sweaters. So I have started on that for her birthday, and I'm storing it in my Bocaria basket. I freaking love this thing. It's like my new favorite project bag. I knit this a little while ago. The pattern is by Vanessa Palisa. I highly recommend it. It's very cute. You can use it for everything. It's very great. Very great. It's a great project to have. Okay, so this one. Alrighty, so the project that I'm working on for my mom is a sweater, and here is how it's looking. I have gotten quite a bit done on it already. I'm really happy to finally have like a simple stockinette project. I've been really wanting one on my needles for a while. I feel like I gravitate towards things that are more intricate or complicated or require cables or something more to pay attention to. And I still really love those projects, and I always will want to have those on my needles in some form, but I definitely feel also the need to have something more simple. That when I'm kind of just want to shut off my brain but still work on something, still have something meditative to relax with. Stockinette projects, definitely need them. So this pattern is the April Cardigan by Petite Knit, and I'm loving it so far. It is a great pattern. Wow, I was very surprised with how simple the construction technique actually turned out to be. So this is my first Petite Knit pattern, and it's worked top down. So it's kind of a saddle shoulder. So let me see if I can show you. So you can see there are increases made this way, and then the way that the shoulder is shaped, it ends up kind of looking like a set-in sleeve. I've been trying it on. My mom is one size larger than me, so it's a little bit bigger on me, but yeah, pretty much when you're wearing it, it looks like a set-in sleeve, but it's not. It's all done in one piece, so I would really recommend this pattern. I haven't finished it yet, but I would really recommend this pattern, just for the fact of how simple it is to execute. Yeah, so I'm really loving it. The yarn that I'm using is La Bien-Aimée yarn. I'm using 2 bases held together. So those are, let's see, what is the main one? Merino Singles is the main color. So what is this called? Sorry. Anemone? Yes, Anemone is the colorway of this one. And that's the main color. And then for the fuzzy fluffy bit, I am using their Surrey alpaca base, which is called Kumo, and the color is Lavande. So that's what that one looks like. Very beautiful colors, very up my mom's alley. So this is how they're looking like together so far. I really love the subtle variegation. I feel like sometimes hand-dyed yarns can be a bit much. I love color, but once it's knit up, I feel like sometimes the variegation could be a bit much. But with these ones held together, I just think it's turning into like a Monet pattern. I mean, painting. It's looking like a, you know, what is that painting called? You know, like a lily pond. It's giving me lily pond vibes. So it feels very spring, and I'm knitting it in the fall, but oh well. She can wear this any time of year. She lives in Virginia, so this will be a nice thing for her to have. It's very cozy. As I've been trying it on, it's very cozy and just warm enough to take away the chill factor. It's not going to be the warmest thing ever, but if you need a little cardigan to take away the chill factor, I think it's going to be great. Oh, and yes, this is going to be a V-neck cardigan. I will have probably inserted a picture by now of what the end piece is going to look like, but it is going to be a V-neck cardigan. And we're going to have to pick out some buttons and things, so I'm very excited about this one. And wow, the yarn, I highly recommend. I feel like I say this about most yarns that I try, but seriously, this one, if you want a luxurious, incredibly soft, like just you could melt in it sort of feeling, I don't know how else to put it, but this combination of their merino singles and their Kumo Surrey alpaca, not sponsored, seriously not sponsored, I just really love how this is feeling. I think there's something different about their Surrey base, because I've tried a few now, and the La Bien-Aimée Surrey base is quite a bit softer than any of the other ones I have felt. So they're doing something good. I would highly recommend it. It's really, really nice. Zero itch factor, which is going to be great because it's going to be kind of, you know, high on the neck. Yeah, and I hope she likes it. So her birthday is in less than a week, so this is not going to get to her on time, but I've split for the sleeves and just doing back and forth on the body now. Yes, it's worked flat, so there is quite a bit of purling, but it's worth it, I think. I might actually knit one for myself after this, depending on, well, no, I already know this one's going to come out great, so I'm probably going to knit one myself at some point as well, because it seems like a really great pattern. So yes, loving that pattern. And what next? Oh, I have another new cast on. Alrighty, so we were talking about the Inspired by Ellenkal, so I have cast on my second project for the Cal. Haven't gotten much done on it so far, but this is going to be a sweater. So I'm working this bottom up. I do not have a pattern, but I'm just gonna make it up as I go along. This was inspired 100% by Caroline of Acre. She had knit pretty much the sweater that I'm trying to make is going to be like 100% what she made, or almost 100%. I don't think I actually saw her finished version, but she used the same colorways and the same motif for the Inspired by Ellenkal, that kind of, you know, peacock feather motif. So this one here, that's what I'm using for this one. So on the sweater, you can't even see it yet, I haven't gotten far enough, but pretty much it's going to be, if I cut off like this, that's what it's going to look like at the bottom. So focus. Anyways, I'm working this bottom up that way. So the colors that I'm using are Inest and Wagenhem, which is from their newest September collection. I really love these colors together. So Caroline had showed these on her podcast, and immediately when I saw them, I fell in love. I love the subtle, low contrast of these together in color work, just how much they blend I actually love the blending. Usually I'm more of a more contrast in my color work sort of person. Obviously, this is like the most contrast you could possibly get. But I don't know, something about these two I just fell in love with. And even a light blue. I'm not really a light blue person, but it just works. So yes, this is working up really quickly. I actually like just cast this on, and this has taken me like an hour or two to complete. So it is working up quite quickly. I'm using 2 strands of each color, and the needles are US 10.5, so 6.5 millimeter. So quite large needles, so it's gonna go pretty quickly. Yeah, I'm really enjoying it, and I really want to focus on this more, but I feel like I should get my mom's sweater done first, so I'm kind of prioritizing that. But I definitely want to have this for the winter. I think it will be so beautiful to wear, and it's just gonna be so cozy and comfortable. Something I've noticed, something really cool about unspun yarns, is how much they can change depending on the gauge that you knit them at and how many strands you use. It's really cool. So, for example, in this pattern, or this particular project that I'm working on, I'm using 2 strands, but it's so, like, the fabric is so airy and bouncy and light and fluffy. Like, it's very much open. And I think that's because since unspun yarn is unspun, it can take up the space you give it, if that makes sense. It can have space to expand if you give it the space. So since I'm using 10.5 needles, that's going to be big stitches, so it will fill that out. Whereas like if you use a worsted weight yarn, like a worsted weight spun yarn, which might be like the same weight as holding knitted and double, it wouldn't turn out the same way if you were to use larger needles. It would just look gappy, perhaps. Does that make any sense? Like, I don't know, I think it's just so cool how unspun yarn just, it expands to fill the space. And yeah, so like my socks, these ones also use 2 strands held together, but they're knit at an extremely tight gauge. They're knit at US size 2, and they just compact. So you can use the same yarn weight, and then, I don't know, I just think it's so cool. So if you can compare them side by side, you can see how much smaller the stitches are, and then how much they can expand. Hopefully you can see the detail on the sock. It's kind of dark. Yeah. Cool things about unspun yarn. My favorite yarn, if you couldn't tell. Yeah, so that project is working up nicely. And I did get a new stitch marker since we spoke last, which I'm using for my end of round marker for this project. So it's a really beautiful embroidered little hoop. And this was not intended to be a stitch marker. I just kind of turned it into one. I put a stitch marker, like a little, what are these called? Light bulb stitch marker through it. So I had seen this little guy at a marketplace we had gone to a couple of weeks ago. It was called Unique Markets, and it was pretty much a really large event with a lot of small vendors. Like everyone was like small business owners, and everything was handmade that they were selling. So one of the vendors there was an embroidery artist, and she just had so many different beautiful pieces. So this was one of her mini ones, and I just fell in love with it. I just immediately saw it and thought stitch marker. I just thought it would be so cute. So that's been bringing me joy. I really appreciate cute stitch markers, especially for like end of round markers. So yeah, that's how that project is going. And I figured I would update you all on my newest design that is coming along, work in progress. This is a big monster. It's very large. It's turning out very big. This is going to be the comfiest, coziest shawl ever. It's pretty much a blanket at this point. So yes, this is the Caroline Shawl. I have decided officially to name it the Caroline Shawl. You can go back and watch, I think it was my last episode, I talked about this more. But pretty much Caroline and I from Owner Acre, Caroline of Owner Acre. I feel like we kind of collaborated on this design. So the name is going to her for this one. So yeah, it's very, very big. And it's pretty much, it's not going to grow anymore. I'm to the point where I'm almost about to cast off, and then there's a few more little things to do. Some of the stitches are going to change, and that is done when you are going to cast off the main part of the shawl. So I'm hoping to have this available to test knit very soon. Again, things are very busy and hectic and crazy around here, but I want to get the test knit out to you guys as soon as possible so we can start knitting this for fall. I think it will be the perfect fall shawl, the perfect fall blanket, if you will. You can definitely even use this as a blanket because it's just so huge. So one thing about the size of this shawl, I did design it where that you could stop at any point. You could stop knitting at any point and just cast off there to make it as large or as small as you would like it. So the construction is worked from here at the point. So it's a very small stitch cast on, and then you're just increasing the whole way across. So you could just stop at any point, say you wanted to stop here and you wanted a little shawlette like this, then you could do so and just cast off there and then just, stop making increases and just end there. Or you could keep going and going and just make it huge. It's almost bigger than my wingspan. Anyways, I'm very much enjoying this, and I'm very excited to actually have it finished and be able to wear it out and use it. I've been using it as a blanket while I've been knitting on it because it's just so big and it's just really cozy and warm and nice. So yes, I'm using New to Den yarn for this, of course, but you could use any unspun or even a regular spun yarn for this as well. And this one I do think would look great in unspun or spun yarn. Yeah, so hoping to have that finished and off the needles soon, and it will go to test knitting. So I think now we'll get into some spinning. I've done some spinning since we last spoke. Spinning is just so meditative, and I really enjoy spinning. It's like when you don't want to knit but you want to do something, go to spinning. But first, water. Gotta remember to hydrate, people. Okay. Oh wait, I forgot to talk about something. We have so much today. I'm not used to having so many projects to talk about. Okay, so as I had said, I really love the Kura Socks. Anyways, I really love Miss Evil's Kura Socks knitting pattern, so I decided to cast on another pair. I had an idea in my mind of something I wanted to do with the yarn, and I thought, why not try it out? Because socks are a great place to try out ideas of color patterns or chart patterns or whatever it may be, because it's such a small project. If it doesn't quite work out, then you can just not make anything else with that idea. Or if it does work out, then you would have a usable pair of socks at the end. So I thought I would do this for an idea that I have, and here's how they're looking. So I have been fading the colors. This was also partially inspired by Caroline. Wow, is this entire video inspired by Caroline? Or inspired by Ellen, inspired by Caroline. So much inspiration in this community. I love it. So she did knit a pair of socks with a new colorway from Owner Acre, which I'll be showing you in a minute, but it fades. So the colorway itself changes color through the yarn. So I thought I wanted to try to do that with different colors, see if we could make them fade between each other. So that's what I did. I grabbed, I think like 9 colors from my stash of New to Den, just random plates, small tiny bits that you would need to do this, and just fade them together and see how it would work out. So I started off with Hufta here at the toe, and then The next one I did Hufta and Fleeceline, and I did these the same way I did the first pair of Kura Socks. So I did 2 strands held double, and US size 3. I'm sorry, I didn't use US size 2, I used US size 3 to knit these. Sorry about that. Anyways, so yes, I'm knitting them the same way. So I started with 2 strands of Hufta, and then I worked 1 strand of Hufta with 1 strand of Fleeceline, and then I did 2 strands of Fleeceline, and then 1 strand of Fleeceline and 1 strand of Languster was the next section, and then only Languster. You can kind of get the idea where I'm going with this. So you do, or what I was doing was like a full color and then 2 colors together and then so on and so forth. So it blended really well in some parts, and then it didn't blend super well in other parts. And I think I actually really like the overall look of it. I think it gives it character and it's kind of fun. So yeah, I would recommend trying that if you would like to blend some colors that you have. Like if you kind of like to mimic the outcome of a fading yarn, but it doesn't exist, if that makes sense. If you want to create something new. So yeah, that's how this one's going. And I could have finished it, but I haven't yet. And I haven't cast on the other pair yet. But, oh yes, and I did put stitch markers where I did the color changes, because some of the color changes I actually really can't tell where they are, so it's good to know for the next sock if you want to make them match. Yeah, so you can see here I put some stitch markers. And I didn't count an exact amount of rows or anything before I did the switch. I just kind of eyeballed it and did whatever felt right. So yeah, another pair of Kura Socks are on the needles, and I love playing with that idea. I think I will go more with that. I think there's going to be some more play with the color fading idea, because I really love fading colors. So okay, now on to spinning. So I have finished a few skeins that I think I spoke about last time. So these were two plies that I'd spun up. This one, actually both are fiber, or both of them are made with fiber from Neighborhood Fiber Co. And this one is Lauraville, I think was the colorway, and it's their Polworth base. And then this one is their Oliver colorway, and it's their BFL and Silk. No, I think that's wrong. It's their Cobblestone Roving. That's what it's called. I really love how these came out. This one is just so subtle and sweet, and then this one is like, I think this one has silk in it. I'm pretty sure. I don't know where the tag is, but I'm pretty sure this roving has silk in it, and hopefully you can see the sheen that it gives. I really love that just little bit of silk in fibers sometimes, and it just makes it pop, especially with this gold. It's just beautiful gold. So this one has subtle variegation as well. Maybe you can see there's little pops of orange sometimes. Maybe you can see right there. So yes, these were both a joy to spin. Both are 2-ply, and I did try to make them a similar weight, but I'm still quite new at spinning, and they turned out kind of differently. So the Polworth actually poofed up quite a bit after washing. Maybe you can see it's kind of uneven. It's more uneven than I was going for. No, it's not too bad, but it did puff up in a few spots and became quite a bit thicker. But then the other one, the Oliver base, that one kind of got thinner. So interesting the way different fibers will change and affect your final outcome, even though I spun them pretty much the same. I felt like when I was drafting the fiber, it felt similar, the amount of fiber I was drafting for each color. So just, it'll come out differently for each one. Maybe next time I will do, I think they're called a plyback sample, and just spin a little bit, and then what do? You kind of fold it back on itself, and then you can see kind of an idea of what the like end yarn will end up looking like, the finished yarn. That's what I think the purpose of a plyback sample is. I'm not entirely certain. I don't know, I feel like I'm coming to spinning with so much less like thought to it, or I don't even know how to explain it. I just feel it, and I just do what feels right, and I'm not really thinking about the end product, and I'm kind of just, I'm gonna let it be what it wants to be, or what it turns out to be, because these two did not end up the same whatsoever. The thickness of the yarn is absolutely entirely different, but that's also like, that also could be that the base of the roving is completely different. So anyways, those are finished, and exciting to have those under my belt. And then I also finished the other braid that I had of a fiber that I had purchased to make something for my partner. So this is the final, or I guess not final outcome, because I haven't washed this yet. So it's still on the bobbin, but I have plied it together. And I think it looks very similar to the other skein that I have that's already washed and dried and finished. So even though I did a bad, and I spun these and plied these like months apart, I think they're actually coming out quite similar, I think. So yeah, I really love the colors in this. This is just such beautiful fiber. So this fiber came from K. Lauritsen Fibers, I think. It was an Etsy shop. I will link them down below. I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the name right now, but I really love this fiber. I do remember the name. It's called Trailblaze is the colorway, and it's their merino base. It's a non-superwash merino base, and I think it's a really low micron too. I think it's like a 19 micron, I believe. So I really love the subtle barber pulling. Maybe you can see. That's like my favorite thing that happens in handspun, is the barber pulling. So excited to have that finished, and then I can actually cast something on with it. And that'll be my first knitting with handspun. I'm so excited about that. And then once that was finished, I had some more time in that day, and I was like, I need to spin some more. So I decided to start playing with some more rustic fiber that I had in my stash. So this is some fiber, or rather some yarn that I have spun with Acre fiber. My first time actually playing with it for a good amount of time, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was kind of anticipating it was going to be more difficult to work with, since everything that I've worked with, all the fiber that I've worked with in the past, has been combed top, I believe, or something very similar, that all the fibers were going in the same direction, and it was all very like clean and pristine and uniform, you know, comb top, you know what that is, or you probably know what I'm talking about if you're a spinner. But this fiber is very much different. So this is what the fiber looks like as it comes to you. So it is carded, so I guess that would produce more of a woolen spun instead of a worsted spun. So more air will be trapped because the fibers are not all going in the same direction. You can kind of see it. It's really cool. It comes in like it almost looks like cotton candy, to be honest. It kind of comes in like a piece of paper, or like a flat sheet of fiber. It's kind of cool. It's like a felted, really light felted piece of, I don't know, fabric or something. It's really cool. But yes, so the fibers are all going in different directions. So when you spin it, it's quite a bit different to work with than when it's all combed and carded in the same way. So yeah, but it was a pleasant surprise to work with, and I did have a couple tension issues when I was first getting started, but once I got going, my hands adjusted and I got used to it pretty quickly. So I really am enjoying spinning with this, and I'm also really enjoying the outcome. I think this yarn is just going to be gorgeous. So this is what it's looking like. So this is the single that I'm still working on. Got to fill up this bobbin, but I really love all the nips and little twists and kind of little tweety bits that are coming. I just love the character that is happening with this one, that it's not smooth and that it's variegated and interesting and textural. So I'm really excited and enjoying this spin. And I'm really excited to knit with this. I think what I'm going to end up doing is just making a simple sweater. I'm going to make this a 2-ply. I really love 2-plies. Maybe a 3-ply. No, I might not have enough yarn or I might not have enough fiber to do a sweater if I did a 3-ply. Anyways, thinking out loud. So yes, I have 200 grams of this fiber. So I'm planning on doing a 2-ply and then knitting just a simple stockinette sweater of some kind, because I really want the yarn to shine. I really want the focus to be on all this gorgeous texture. So yeah, I'm really enjoying that. And I think it's cool to see, will it focus? There, I think it's cool to see how the fiber looks and then how the yarn comes out. I think it looks darker over here when it's spun, no? So yeah, I would recommend picking up some of their fiber if you are a spinner. They will have some new colors coming soon in their next collection. Very beautiful colors coming. So check that out if you're a spinner and you like more rusticy fibers. Alrighty, and last but not least today are some yarns that have come into my life recently. I have a collaboration that I'm working on with Ruby and Rose's yarn that I'm very excited about. So she reached out to me a little while ago and let me know that she has a new collection coming out this fall. It's called the Letter Writer Collection, and she has a bunch of beautiful new colorways coming. So Ruby and Rose's yarn I've been following for so long, I think since the beginning of when she started her YouTube podcast. She is a very young, very talented, very inspiring maker and knitter here on YouTube. She has a yarn company as well, so that's Ruby and Rose's Yarn. And yeah, I've been following her pretty much since I first got back into knitting, like really seriously, and yeah, a couple of years ago. So yeah, it was really fun. She reached out to me and wanted to do this collaboration, so I'm very excited about it. And she sent me some of her yarns to participate in her make-along coming up, you know, around the new collection coming out, her Letter Writer collection. And I have more I need to share with you and want to share with you on that, but I can't yet. So that will probably be next time that we'll talk about more of her colorways. But for now, I will show you one of the things that I'm going to be using to knit something with. So I picked out her stationery colorway. She sent me a few photos of some of the colors that were coming, and immediately when I saw this colorway, I just fell in love. I thought it was so gorgeous. So I decided to pick this one for something I'm going to be knitting for the Cal, or make along. So this is her stationery colorway as part of the new collection coming. So I will have a link down below with all the information for that and where you can find her on Instagram and such, for more information on when the make along is going to start and when the collection is coming out and all that good stuff. So yes, I decided I'm going to be knitting the Birds of a Feather shawl by Andrea Mowry. I had been wanting to make that. That's been on my make list for a very long time, and I thought since I loved I loved the colorway of stationery in multiple of her bases, I thought it would be the perfect colorway to do for this pattern. So yes, this base is also a new base. So she has new colorways coming and a new base. So this is her Fragrant Rose base, and it is superwash merino and cashmere and nylon. So it is so soft. This is the first MCN I've actually gotten to work with, and I haven't cast on yet, obviously, but I'm very excited to work with it. It's so soft just in the skeins, so I know I'm going to really enjoy that. And then the other base that I'm using is her Rose Cloud base, which is Surrey alpaca and silk. We all know how much I love Surrey, and I figured since this is going to be a shawl, I would want something not itchy, because I can get a little irritated sometimes with mohair, so I decided to go for Surrey instead. So yeah, that's how it looks on those two bases. And of course colorways can kind of change and adjust with what base it's dyed on, but I really love how it looks on this particular base. So I'm really excited to cast that on, and I will certainly be sharing that with you all. And then recently something very exciting arrived in the mail. So Wool Dreamers decided to send me some of their yarns to try out. Not sponsored or anything, they just wanted to share some of their yarns with me. I hadn't gotten the opportunity to knit with them yet, and I really wanted to try them out, especially their unspun yarns. So they decided to send me some, and I am so excited to try it out. I haven't had a chance to cast on anything with it yet, but I'm very excited to. So they sent me quite a bit of their unspun yarn, which is similar to Nutiden or Plötulopi. It's the same kind of idea, where it comes in plates like this, and 100-gram plates, and it's unspun yarn, so you know what that means. It's not spun. It feels really nice. It is a bit more rustic feeling than Nutiden. I'm just going to compare it to Nutiden, or that's my only other frame of reference. I haven't tried Plötulopi yet or any other unspun yarn. There's so many out there nowadays, and on my Fields of Gold sweater, which uses Nutiden yarn, my Fields of Gold design, I do put a lot of other substitutes if you don't want to use Nutiden, or there's a lot of unspun yarn out there these days. But anyways, I'm really excited to try Wool Dreamers Manchalopi. That's what this is called, Manchalopi. So it is a bit more rustic feeling, which I actually really love. I think this would be a great, like, really cozy, warm sweater, or even like a blanket or anything like that. So I definitely want to cast on something with this soon. I actually have a new design planned for it. So I actually have started swatching, but we're not going to talk about that today because we have enough to go over anyways. Yeah, but a cool thing about Manchalopi is that it comes double-stranded right off the plate. So, like for example, Nutiden, you would have to, if you wanted to work with it double-stranded, you would either have to work from 2 plates or wind it up into balls and then knit from that. But Manchalopi already comes as a double strand. Hopefully you can see that. I really appreciate that. And yes, another something interesting that I noticed was it feels quite a bit denser. Even though it is 100 grams, it seems a bit denser than Nutiden. Nutiden seems more light and airy. But then when you look at just the yarn by itself, when you pull it off the plate, it seems the same. It seems just as light and airy. So I think that's a really interesting feature about it. So I'm excited to start working with it, and there's so many beautiful colors. Different grays and a white. And then they also sent me one of their blues, which is so beautiful. So it's got some subtle variegation to it. There's actually some purple and pink throughout as well. So I think that's really beautiful. I think I'm actually going to knit a hat with this one. This one's really cute. Yeah, so excited to continue with that, and yes, there will be a new design coming. And then something I wanted to share with you from the last Nutiden update, just because I think it's so cool, I had to share it with you. So Acre has been trying out a new production method with producing some of their yarns, some of their colorways, and Caroline decided to make a new colorway inspired by Swiss chard, which I thought was so beautiful. Wanting to kind of give back and give thanks to farmers, and just really lovely sentiments with that. But yeah, she did a very good job with inspiration and bringing that to life, because this yarn does definitely remind me of Swiss chard in the best way. So this colorway is called Virvan, and each plate is 100% unique. Isn't that so cool? So what's going to end up happening when you knit with this is that the colors will fade as you knit. So you'll start off with red in this case, and then go to orange and different greens. And I can't even tell you, I don't think the camera will even be able to pick it up, but I can't even tell you how many subtle variances there are in this. I almost don't even want to knit with it because it looks like a work of art. It's just so beautiful. And how the colors have just blended together. It's seriously magical. It reminds me also of like rock formations where you see the different striations of the different colors of the rock. It's kind of that in yarn form. So beautiful. And again, every plate is unique. So that was another thing that Caroline wanted to implement into the yarn. She wanted every single plate, no plates will be identical. Everything is going to be unique. So this one has different colors, different color fading happening. And this one as well. So maybe you can kind of tell the inspiration. It very much looks like rainbow Swiss chard sort of colors. Yes, very beautiful. And I want to knit with it, but I also don't. Because again, it's just beautiful on its own. So yeah, some of this is still available. Some of Vag and Hem is also still available if you would like to pick those up. And then there's also a new collection coming soon, so lots of goodies to try out. But if you can get your hands on some of this, I would highly recommend it. It's just really, really cool. So I think that's about everything I had to share with you today. And one last thing, I wanted to say a huge thank you. We have reached 10,000 subscribers here on YouTube and over 10,000 followers on Instagram. And it still just blows me away how many of you would like to hear what I'm making and talk about knitting and share through this platform. I really deeply appreciate it, and I hope that my podcasts and my knitting patterns and all of this, I hope it brings you some joy in your life. And if you're knitting any of my patterns, I hope you're enjoying them, and if you've finished something, I hope you enjoy wearing it. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate all of your support and all the comments. I always read them. I've gotten busy, so I don't have time to answer them anymore, or answer all of them anymore, but just know that I read them all, and I'm very, very grateful for all of you for being here. So thanks again, and I will see you next time from a new space, probably. Because we're going to be moving somewhere, so things are going to get a little crazy for a while, but I'll see you from a new space next time. So I hope you have a good rest of your week, and happy knitting, happy making. Bye-bye.